All right, let's have some fun with this. Let's go back. Let's start factoring some more of these. Except let's up it up a little bit and make it a little bit more complicated. So I like to make these into a game. So if you can, challenge yourself. Try to just turn it into a puzzle. Otherwise, you're just going to drive yourself crazy with it, and it's just you're not going to have any fun with it. And you might as well try to have some fun with it. So we're going to look at this as a puzzle. And so we're going to just kind of go through this and try to have a little bit of fun. So let's take a look at some. All right, here's another one we're going to try to factor, okay? And now previously what we did is we factored these things, except this lead coefficient was 1. Well, now what we need to do is we need to use all these different possible combinations of using this coefficient and this number here, and we're going to try to multiply them together in order to get this number here, but then still add to get -7. All right? Now I know that was a mouthful, but here's the deal. We wanted to end up with, okay, at the end here, we want to end up with 2. We want to end up with two things. We're going to end up with x, plus something, and then x plus something else. Well, right now we know that since this is positive, we know that both of these are going to be positive, right? So it's going to be x plus and x plus. So what I'm looking for here is I'm going to look for what numbers can I plug in here and here, okay? And then I'm also going to have to put in a coefficient in front of one of these, right? And so let's try, we'll try putting it in here, okay? We'll put in a coefficient here, and then what we want to do is we want to kind of play around with them in order to get this to be -7. Now I've already made a mistake here, and these both have to be subtracting, right? Because two negative numbers, this will be negative, and then this will be negative. So two negative numbers here will add, multiply to be -3, and then they'll add to be -7. Okay. Well, really, what you want to kind of do here is you want to look at using the factor of 2 and using factors of 3, right? So we know. Let's see. Let's list our factors. We got 2. We have factors are 2 times 1, and that's it. And then we have 3, and our factors here are 3 times 1. Okay. So looking at this, I'm kind of playing with these ideas, right? So let's see, if I did 1 times 3, I'd get 3, and 1 times 2, I'd get 2, and that together adds up to be 5, which isn't going to be enough here. So we know that, let's see, what if I do 2 times 3, that's 6, and then 1 times 1 is going to be 1, and 6 plus 1 is 7, so that's pretty good. So let's try this. We'll put in, if I put a 2x here, okay, and I know I need to multiply times this 3, right? These are the ones that are going in here and here, okay? So 2 and 1, this is going to be with the x's, okay? This is with the x, and this is with your constant terms, right? The numbers, okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, all right, well, 2 times x, right? I need to multiply by 3. So I know that the 3 is going to have to go here, okay? Because I'm going to have to go 2 times 3. And then I'm going to get a 1 here. And this will be a 1, okay? So let's see. Let's try it. If I take this thing and I move it on up, okay, and we'll go ahead and we'll expand it out, and we'll try multiplying this. And so we'll say, okay, let's go ahead and we'll try this out. Let's go, okay, we're going to go 2x times x is 2x squared. And we'll do 2x times -3 is going to be -6x. And then we do -1 times x is -x. And -1 times -3 is +3. Add them together, we get 2x squared minus 7x plus 3. Boom. That looks, whoops, that's playing with a new toy I got here, new writing pad, so bear with me a little bit. So I'm going to get this, right, and this matches that. So it looks good to me. Okay, again, it's just a game. You just kind of have to play around with it and see if you can toy around with it until you get it to work. Whoops. So let's try another one here, okay? So here's one where we have, okay, let's go back, let me make this there, okay? So here's my x's, right? And then I know here's my numbers. And so what we're trying to do here is we're going to take 3, okay? So let's see, we're going to take multiples of, or my factors of 3, so 1 times 3, okay, and then that's it. And then we're going to do the factors of 5, and that's going to be 1 times 5. And so we're going to look around and we're going to try to play around with this to get to -5. Okay. Well, here, let's see, we'll write this out, and so we're going to put this one here, and we'll put this one here, and I'm going to have something x and something x. Now, this is going to be a negative, right? So that means that one of these has to be negative, and then one of them has to be positive, right? So I'm going to, these, one is going to be positive here, and one is going to be negative, okay? So I've got to find some way for this thing to add up to positive 14. Well, like I said, you're going to just have to kind of play around with it a little bit. Sometimes plug some numbers in, see if they work, see if they don't. But let's see. If, let's say, let's be smart about this, okay? This is a positive 14, okay? So in all likelihood, this is going to be a negative 5. Or, I mean, a positive 5. And this will be a negative 1, right? Because if I'm going to multiply something by positive 5, right, this is going to be the bigger product. I'm going to end up with a bigger number, okay? And what I'm talking about here is I'm talking about my middle terms, the two middle terms that are going to add to get to positive 14. So I know that this is probably going to be a positive 5. And I'm hoping you see that you can look at this and be like, oh, okay, you know what? Well, if this is a positive 3, right? 3 times 5, right? And so remember, this is to get here. This is also going to have to be positive. So these are both going to be positive. These are both, one's going to be negative, one's going to be positive. So if I do 3 times 5, that's 15. And then this times this is negative 1. Well, 15 and negative 1 is 14. So we're going to need to take 3 and multiply it by 5, okay? And we know that 5 is going to be the positive one. And I'm going to put the 3 on the other side because I'm going to have to multiply it here, right? And then this positive one goes here, and then my negative one goes there. Okay, and let's go ahead and we'll try multiplying it out and see how it works here. So if I get this, I'm going to end up with, okay, 1 times 3x is 3x squared, and 1x times negative 1 is negative x, and 5 times 3 is 15x. And 5 times negative 1 is going to be negative 5. Put them together, 3x squared plus 14x minus 5. Boom, we got it. Okay? And again, sometimes it's going to take a little bit longer. You're just going to have to play around with what are the different possible combinations. But what I'm hoping is that you have a pretty solid foundation for products, right? Your multiplication tables. I'm hoping that you can kind of look and see and say, okay, well, you know what, 3 times 5 is 15, and the leftovers from that, right, 3 is going to be 1 and 1, 1 times 1. I mean, it's not always going to be that easy. Like the previous one also only had prime numbers. We couldn't factor them at all, right? This is a prime number and this is a prime number. So let's take a look at one that might be a little bit more tricky than that, okay? And so here we have a number. This is not a prime number, okay? Now this one is again, but we're going to just go ahead and play with it and see what happens. Now what's real confusing here is that this thing is negative to start with. So what we like to do is we like to take these and factor out the negative right away. Okay, and so what we do is we say, okay, you know what, let's take the negative out, and then we'll do 4x squared, and we'll take everything and make it the opposite. So this is going to be 12x, and this is going to be minus 7. And then from here, what we can do is we can now just worry about the inside, okay? We can leave this negative part here, and then we'll still use it, right? But we're just going to ignore it for right now and factor the inside here, okay? So let's see, let's look at my x's, and we'll look at my numbers, and we'll see what kind of possible combinations, okay? Well, I know I'm going to have a negative 7, right? So this is going to be 7 times 1. So this is either going to be negative 7 and positive 1, or it's going to be 7 and negative 1, okay? Well, then my possible options here, we could have 4 times 1, or we could have 2 times 2, but they're all going to have to be positive, right? Because we changed this to be a positive 4. All right, well, basically now all we have to do is we have to look and say, okay, well, let's see, these two multiplied look like they're going to equal negative 7, and these are going to equal to 4. So now what I'm looking is some possible combination that I can do with these in order to get to negative 12, right? Well, I'm probably going to have to use a negative 7. that's just, I'm guessing at this point I'm going to have to use a -7 because this is -12. I mean, that's a pretty large negative number given the things that we have here, right? So let's see, if we did 4 times -7, that's going to be -28, and then I'm going to have +1 and +1, and that's going to be, so it's going to be -27. Well, that's way too much. Well, let's try this. What if I do 2 times -7? Well, that's -14, and then 2 times 1 is +2. Oh, that looks like it works to me. So what we'll do is we'll try it out. We'll say, okay, you know what? We're going to use 2x, okay, and we're going to do, and actually because both of them are 2, it doesn't actually matter how we write it, right? Because 2x here, 2x there. And then let's go ahead and we'll factor this thing out, or multiply it out and FOIL it and see if we end up with the right answer. So we're going to do this. We're going to get 4x squared 2x times 1 plus 2x. -7 times 2x is -14x. -7 times 1 is going to be -7. All together, all right, we got 4x squared minus 12x minus 7. This whole thing negative. And if I distribute that out, I'm going to end up with that. All right. Well, I hope you have a little bit of an idea here how to do it. So why don't you go ahead and why don't you practice these two, okay? These are, again, these are not real difficult. They're all prime numbers, but these have leading coefficients with negative numbers. So go ahead, pause the video, and when you come back, I will factor them out for you, okay? All right, well, hopefully you had a chance to do this. And let's see, let's go ahead and we're going to pull the negative out of here. So we get 2x squared plus 5x plus 3, okay? And if you look at this, we're going to have to do some kind of something x, whoops, something x plus something else, x plus something else. They're all positives, right? Well, if I do 2 times 3, I'm going to get 6. That's going to be too much, so I know that it's going to have to be 2x plus 3 and then x plus 1, okay? 2x times x is 2x squared, 3x, and then 2x times 1, that's 5x, 3 times 1, and then the whole thing is negative. Okay, so that's your answer there. On this one, what we're going to do is we're going to pull out a negative, and we're going to end up with 3x squared plus x minus 2. Okay, well, this one's a little bit different, so let's go ahead and we can do our little chart if we want, and we can look at the different possibilities. Well, this is a +3, so this is just going to be 3 times 1. But this is a -2, so it could be -2 times 1 or 2 times -1. Okay, so if I do 3 times -2, I'm going to get -6, and that's not going to work already. So then let's see, if I do 3 times 1, that's 3, and 1 times -2, that's going to be -2, so 3 and -2 together is going to be +1. Oh, there it is. That's it. Okay, so it's this combination, right? And I have to do 3 not times -2. So I don't want 3x. So I'm not multiplying by -2, so it has to be inside the same binomial. Okay, and then I'm going to be left with x plus 1, right? The 3 goes here, the 1 goes here. Okay, -2 here, 1 there, and if you multiply it out, I get 3x squared. Whoops, put the negative in front. -2x, positive 3x gives me positive x. -2 times 1, -2. All good. All right. The best way to get the hang of this is just to practice. Okay. Again, turn it into a puzzle. Find ways that you're multiplying these numbers and adding to this thing in the middle. Okay, make lists. The book shows you how to do a chart of it if you want. I can show you another way that's actually more convoluted and complicated, but it's a really easy way to do it once you get the hang of it. It's called factoring by grouping. If you want to check out Khan Academy for that one, he has a real nice video kind of explaining it. A little long-winded, but good nonetheless. You can check that out. Otherwise, just play around with it. Again, make it a game. Have a little fun with it. Have a little competition or something. So here are the problems that I want you to do. 5 through 15 odd, 25 through 33 odd. I believe there are 2 worked out solutions in this solution set, maybe only 1. But if you get stuck, be sure to go through that and bring questions, good questions class, or post them onto the comment section of the website. So good luck, and again, most importantly, just have some fun with it. Turn it into a puzzle, make it into a game. Okay.